hedge fund manager, socialite, accused sex trafficker.
The alleged behavior shocks the conscience.
Federal prosecutors say Jeffrey Epstein created a network of dozens of victims, some as young as 14, who he sexually abused from 2002 to 2005 at his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, and mansion in New York City, where, according to court documents, the FBI seized a vast trove of lewd photographs of young-looking women or girls during a search over the weekend. Hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs. Epstein was arrested on Saturday when his private jet landed from Paris. He was charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for the purpose of sex. Victims were initially recruited to provide massages, according to the indictment, which would become increasingly sexual in nature.
The victims, all underage girls at the time of the alleged conduct, were given hundreds of dollars in cash after each encounter, either by Epstein or by one of Epstein's employees.
The 66-year-old has palled around with some of the most powerful in politics and business, including Bill Clinton and President Trump. Today, he pleaded not guilty to the charges, which many, including some officials and alleged victims, say should have come more than a decade ago, after a similar investigation by law enforcement in Florida. But in 2008, Florida U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, now the current Secretary of Labor, brokered a secret last-minute deal. Epstein avoided more serious federal charges by pleading guilty to state charges, including soliciting prostitution from a minor. He had to spend 13 months in jail and register as a sex offender.
It's just such a shocking disparity between what he could have been charged with, what the evidence and the allegations seem to show, and what he was allowed to get away with.
During Acosta's confirmation hearing, he said it was the best deal given the evidence.
It was a broadly held decision.
The deal, criticized by many as too lenient, became the focus of an explosive Miami Herald report last year. Several of Epstein's alleged victims speaking out for the first time.
I was 16.
I was 16.
I started going to him when I was like 14 turning 15.
Today, the U.S. Attorney said investigative journalism significantly helped the case, and he called on new victims to come forward.
While the charged conduct
memo and released yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for an American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Yeah, sure. Could I just interrupt? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
On the tariffs first, you've said it is the deadline. What incentives?
The DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's
I saw your appearance at CPAC with Ben and with Ted Cruz, and one of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you. Madam Attorney General, Pam, great to spend time with you.
Thank you so much.
crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Investigate Everything. I have been gone for a while, so I do apologize. Good to be back. Can't believe we're looking at this case again. But it never got looked at, so here we are. All right, so let me just get that thumbs up. It looks like you guys can hear me, so we are ready to go. Okay. The Epstein case. I think I just gave you a good overview of it. If you didn't know it, of course, you've been living under a rock if you don't. What's going on? Okay, so what's the recent, you all know it, all of a sudden it's closed. Now, there was a client list, the list was talked about, Donald Trump talked about it, everyone talked about it. Suddenly it's gone. So of course, this raises questions of why are they doing this? And you have to ask yourself, and these are good logical questions. Now, I've been going through all of the turmoil of this case in the last year, especially when the binder bimbos came out in February and showed off the Pam Bondi binders. And first and foremost, it's just the way this case is being treated is an utter, it's a total injustice to the survivors. I use the term survivor, not victims. One of the main ones who's now dead committed suicide in April 2025. That's Virginia Jeffery. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing her name. She committed suicide. She's the was the main witness. She's the one that really kind of spearheaded this whole charge against Jeffrey Epstein. So why do we care? Well, I'll tell you why I care. You have your own reasons. The reason I care about this case so much is because, and I discussed this on JJ Carroll's Border Truths the other day. I care about this case because if we can't protect those who are weak or those who can't protect themselves against such monsters, even at the government level, or if we refuse to protect them, or at least give them some sort of justice, some sort of transparency, then what good are we? What's the point? What's the point of being the freest nation in the world with the best legal system? It's not perfect, but we do have the best legal system. But not only that, there's so many people who are still in danger. Witnesses, lawyers, everything like that. The sooner this stuff is made transparent, the better. Okay? The better for all of them, and the better for everyone else, because Donald Trump had said, you know, we're still talking about him. Of course we're still talking about him. Because literally everyone that this man was affiliated with, they seem to be the same people that told us to take vaccines, that told us to lock down, that told us to shut up and listen to the science. The same people that take our taxes, the same people who don't seem to think that the common man matters, to the point where they victimize them the way Jeffrey Epstein and his clients victimize so many young women. Okay? That's why it matters. Okay, so Steve, we'll get to the comments in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the comments at the end or during a break, so I don't interrupt the flow. We also need to get to the bottom of it, because if it is being covered up, it's being covered up by, I would say, the highest levels of our government across administrations. Now, look, I'm an investigator. I'm a trained intelligence analyst. I leave room for the possibility that they're telling the truth. But see, that's not how we investigate things, as you know. We investigate things by starting with what we know. And that's really the point of these next few episodes. We're just going to break it down. When I went all the way back in the last 3 days, I was offline for the most part. I wasn't even really paying much attention to current events. And I just started going through the parts we know. So what do we know? We know that he most likely died. So I decided to start with his death. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up my my notes using Microsoft OneNote. So forgive me for that. But it seemed like the best way to get things organized. It's something I use for work as well. So let me just get this up here, and we will just start going through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way back to when Jeffrey Epstein got arrested, coming off his plane in New Jersey, to the present moment. Okay, so let's just share the screen now. And actually, before I share it, let me just welcome everyone back. You can see your comments are on the screen there, so I'll just read them off. Anti-corruption, my good friend Autumn, says, why is Trump simping for Epstein when releasing the files was one of his biggest campaign promises? I don't know. I don't know. It's not, I don't know if he's simping for anyone. What I do know is what we don't know. What we don't know is if, do they even have the files? I mean, unless any of us are in the DOJ and saw the files, we don't know if they have them or not. It's almost 99% sure they do, but we have to go on what we know. Okay, and we're not at the DOJ, so we have to look at what we've got in front of us. Doesn't mean I'm simping for them. It means we can't waste time wondering why. Then Same Day Girl says, I think the change in narrative is due to... Let me just pop these up. It's easier for you guys. I think the change in narrative is due to its leverage. IMO, they used to pass the big, beautiful bill. Well, if we have proof of that, certainly share it. Okay, we have no proof of that. And so one thing, and you're right to explore these, these ideas and everything. I will warn you, just like I said in the summary, it's if you really want to get to the bottom of anything, if you really want to tear open a case, you really want to get transparency, I always say don't try to prove theories, try to disprove theories. Okay, but what I also say is always collect first, collect, and that's what I've been doing. And then sort, triage, sort, and put it in a timeline, and you'll be amazed at what points out at you. So are we going to solve anything tonight? No. But what I am going to do is share what I've been doing for, several hours, if not days, putting it into taking all this information, so much information, and going through it line by line. And so for now, we need to focus on the events around his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, but especially around his death, because there are a lot of loose ends there that just kind of blew my mind when I saw them. And I went through the video painstakingly while I just got back from England. And so I was in my hotel room at night. I would just sit there and stare at those 10 hours. I'd do like an hour at a time, trying to find everything on there. Okay, so what do we know? Okay, let's start there. We know that Jeffrey Epstein most likely died. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was either murdered or committed suicide. Okay, the official account says he committed suicide. I don't believe that, but I'm not going to try to prove that he was murdered. I'm just collecting. What else do we know? We know that we were promised Epstein files. We know we were promised a client list by Pam Bondi's own words. She can twist it any way she wants. That's what she meant. Donald Trump said it on the campaign. His son did. The Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein, who is top of his game as a lawyer. I don't care if you like him or not. He's a good lawyer. And he said, no, there's a client list. And I think he went to Epstein Island. Now remember, when you're going through the court documents, just because someone's mentioned at a party or in association, it doesn't mean that they were a pedophile. And I think that's very important for people to understand and express, because so much nonsense has been floating around these last 5 years about this. Someone will show a picture of Epstein and Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They'll show pictures of Bill Clinton and Epstein. Bill Clinton's are a lot more damning. But let's just kind of break down really quickly as a sidebar how it works in those circles. And how do I know this? I know this because I used to be a +1 in those circles. Not the Epstein circles, but in those elite circles. When I met my wife, she was rolling with, top of the food chain in Manhattan. We'd go to a lot of these high-end parties. We were on a list to go to screenings where there'd be very famous people there, very powerful people. And the way it works is, in a lot of cases, in a big place like Mar-a-Lago, first of all, that is a club. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago. Naomi was just there about 6 months ago for dinner, and she had dinner with a donor and some of his friends. But, Donald Trump wasn't there. It's a club he owns. We've been to Bedminster. Donald Trump popped in for a speech and he's gone. The parties that happen in these circles are arranged by professional, kind of like guest list people, like, I forget, one in particular that Jeffrey Epstein used was Peggy Siegel in New York City. We know Peggy Siegel. So when you end up at a party, you normally don't know anyone there. I'm not saying Trump knew or didn't know Epstein, but in those circles, they probably knew of each other. They probably had some interactions. There's some reporting about a real estate deal that they clashed on. But you typically don't know most of the people. You don't know your hosts half the time. Hosts don't know half their guests. It's a list that's arranged by these professional party planners, for lack of a better term. And if you look up Peggy Siegel, you'll see what I mean. There's an actual A-list. Funny sidebar is when I asked my wife, I said, well, how do you know if you're on the A-list? She goes, well, just by who's there and how good the movie is that you're going to screen. I go, how do you know when you're on the B-list? She goes, little less interesting people. I said, well, how do you know, is there a C-list? She goes, yeah, that means NPR was there. So that's how that works. So let's just, I really would love to put it to bed when people show pictures of people at one of these parties. It's not like Mar-a-Lago is Donald Trump's cottage in the woods. It's a massive club, just like Bedminster and all the others. And so there's that. So, and I tell you that, again, not to shill for Donald Trump, but to give you the perspective so you don't pursue too many degrees down the rabbit hole of something like a picture of two people at a party. Now, let's talk about Bill Clinton. When you look at the photos of him and Epstein, it does seem a lot more intimate. There's lots of different photos. Them on the plane, they look like buddies. Okay, they look like very close buddies. He's getting on the plane with Maxwell and all the rest. Those are worth pursuing, I think, a little more. Plus, Bill Clinton and Hillary went to the island multiple times. That kind of stuff is worth pursuing because it's patternistic, and that's what you want to look for is the patterns. Okay, so that aside. So the reason why I started at the death, okay, is because let's think about it. When we go through the details, which are based on Bureau of Prison reports and the footage that they put out, and I'll explain that footage if you don't know, it's barely a sliver of what we can really see. It's because it takes a lot to get at someone in some of these facilities. And those kind of mistakes that were made during Epstein's death, which happened on August 10th or possibly August 9th, in his cell in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, part of the Bureau of Prisons in New York City. I mean, it's very highly secure. I have a lot of friends in corrections. I called a few of them to ask them. They're like, yeah, dude, that never happens. There's also the whole thing with the cameras going down. Now, we know the cameras went down. That's why we have such a crappy angle. But it's the timing of trying to get new cameras that I found really interesting, which is right on the Bureau of Prisons website. We're going to talk about that. And then there's just some activities going on in that footage that just seems strange to me. And I'm going to welcome your comments on that because I know as much as you. I have as much access as you. Okay. But probably the only difference is I may have put a little more time in the last 2 days on this thing. I don't know, maybe you put in a ton of time on it. And I'm going to miss things too that you're going to find. So that's why I welcome your comments. Any comment you put up there, that's not, if you put up a comment saying that the New World Order or some nebulous thing, I mean, I'm not going to make fun of you, but that's not going to really move the needle on an investigation. So without much more rambling, let's get to it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and let's make this happen. Here we go. Okay. All right, so this is my Microsoft OneNote. I do find this program really good to use because you can put a lot of stuff on one page And as you know, when you're trying to do timelines and everything else, it's near next to impossible to get everything on a portrait-sized picture or something like that. So here's what we have. Here is the start of the timeline. It's just this here for you guys. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. Just want to sync the screen. This is a new laptop and it is terrible, but we'll make it work. Okay, so July 7th, 2019, billionaire Jeffrey Epstein is charged in the sex trafficking of underage girls. You saw that in the video. I don't need to play that again. July 17th, 2019. Okay, so 10 days later. Attorney details new Epstein sexual misconduct claims. At least one young woman has accused Jeffrey Epstein of improper sexual contact while he was serving a 13-month jail sentence for state charges in 2008-2009. Just to review, as you all know, he got this sweetheart deal from Attorney General Acosta, who later became the Secretary of Labor for Donald Trump's first administration. But down there in Florida, he gave Epstein, it's not even a sweetheart deal. Epstein basically, during a 13-month sentence, basically was just sleeping in his cell at night, but he was allowed to go to an office that was set up by Acosta's attorneys, with his attorneys, and run his business, whatever he was doing, and then just have to report back in at nighttime. As some news pundit said, it was like he had his sentence was like 13 months of sleeping in a bad hotel. So this is when, so more people came forward. And the timing is interesting because these are pretty old allegations, some of them, but all of a sudden they all came at once. And I'm not saying the girls were making it up or looking for doing anything nefarious. I'm just saying the timing of these, or the timing of the release of these accusations is interesting. 6 months before COVID. No, I'm not going to go down a theoretical road, but you know what I'm getting at. And they could have brought these charges a lot earlier. Now, maybe some corrupt prosecutor was trying to wait out the statute. I don't know. I don't even know if there was a statute on sexual assault. I don't know. Okay, so July 23rd. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So he got arrested. And then he got his sentencing hearing, and he was sent to the MCC. That's what we'll call it, the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Okay, and then he remained behind bars. Okay, as of July 23rd. Okay, now we're going to get into the details. Now, you've all heard he was on suicide watch. You saw the beginning of my video. NBC incorrectly reported that he was on suicide watch for like 2 weeks. That's not true. And so here's what we're going to do. Following is sourced from the June 23rd, 2023 DOJ, Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General, Investigation Division's report number 23085. It was called the Investigation and Review of the Federal Bureau of Prisons Custody, Care, and Supervision of Jeffrey Epstein at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Okay, so I do have the link. I'm going to put these all... Actually, I'm putting these all in my Substack, so you could go on over there and grab them. It's too much for a Rumble description. I'll run out of characters. But this is this full 128-page report that I've been combing through. And there's so many interesting details in here that even I hadn't looked at originally. Okay, so going back in time a little, Epstein's assigned right pretty close to his arrest to the Special Housing Unit, the SHU, at the MCC. Okay. Then he, on July 9th, typo, on July 9th, the MCC psychological staff conducts a formal suicide assessment on Epstein, and they determine that he did not meet the criteria for a psychological diagnosis. While in MCC, this is a quote from the report, while in the MCC, New York, Epstein was screened on numerous occasions by psychological staff, including a formal suicide assessment on July 9th. In the evaluations, he denied having thoughts of or a history of attempted suicide. So he's making it clear, I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. And I kind of believe that account because, well, first of all, it's the official record. It does them no good to be truthful, but it seems like they were. And he said he was not suicidal. Now, you would think if the psychology people were in on his death, they would say, well, he said he was suicidal. But it could be that they didn't put him on suicide watch because they were understaffed at the time. And by including him saying, I'm not suicidal in the report, they have an excuse. They could say, well, we weren't sure. He said he wasn't. So, okay, the psychological staff determined Epstein did not meet the criteria for a psychological diagnosis. That's on page I of that report. And you know what, guys? Let me do this so you can follow along. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to put it in the chat for you, okay? And then you can see right what I'm reading from. Because I never want you to take my word for it. All right, popping that in the chat now. Okay, I think you all can see that. Good. All right. So it should have popped up in all your chats. If not, what you can do is just go to, I use the archive pages because I like to go to the oldest archive page, but you can go to oig.justice.gov, or you can actually just Google the name of the report right there. If you just Google OIG Jeffrey Epstein, it should come right up. It's a report 23085. I do always go into the properties because I want to see when it was written. This was created on June 23rd, 2023 at 2:31 p.m. This is 2 years after, 3 years after, 4 years after his death, almost 4 years after his death, is when they completed this review. Okay, and so what had happened was after Epstein was found dead, it was a major screw-up, obviously, or it was by design. That's a theory, so we're not going to explore it. Officially, it was a major screw-up, but only 2 people really got disciplined for it, the 2 guards that were on duty. Now, by my count, I saw about 3 or 4 guards on duty, but the 2 guards that falsified their half-hour checks, they actually didn't check on Epstein. You know, it seems like they're the only ones that got disciplined. The OIG report, in a nutshell, has a ton of details, but they're basically saying, okay, look, we've identified everything, we're going to fix it, including the cameras, which I still don't know if they're fixed. But always go to the properties on that and always get a snapshot of the properties and always download these when you find them and always archive them on the Wayback Machine. Okay, so he's assigned there. They decide he's not suicidal. Okay, so now July 23rd is a significant date. Okay, this is big. At 1:27 a.m., Epstein is either attacked, these are my words, is either attacked or attempts suicide while housed in the SHU with an inmate, with a cellmate. Okay? Now, this is really interesting because let me read right from the report. On July 23rd at 1:27 a.m., correctional officers responded to Epstein's SHU cell where they found Epstein with an orange cloth around his neck. That appeared to be part of the prison clothes. Epstein's cellmate told officers Epstein tried to hang himself. Medical staff examined Epstein, observed friction marks and superficial reddening around his neck and on his knee, and placed him on suicide watch. Bureau of Prisons, or BOP, policy requires that inmates identified as suicide risks be placed on suicide watch until no longer at imminent risk. The BOP uses a less restrictive monitoring form, psychological observation, for inmates who are stabilizing but not yet ready to return to a housing unit, whatever that means. Now, just 24 hours later, on July 24th, Epstein is removed from suicide watch but remains on psychological evaluation. And then he accused his cellmate of trying to kill him, and he later recanted. Listen to this. This is from the report. Right here, just so you know where I'm at. Epstein was removed from suicide watch on July 24th, but remained under psychological observation until July 30th. Epstein first told MCC New York staff he thought his cellmate had tried to kill him. But later, he said that he did not know what occurred and did not want to talk about how he had sustained his injuries. Remember, he had the bruising around the neck, the knee, everything. Epstein also later asked if he could be housed with the same cellmate. Love your comments on that one, because that one I've been mulling over all day and I can't figure out, did they just put that in the report? Did he actually say that? We won't know. Another inmate housed on the same shoe tier told the OIG that he heard Epstein's cellmate call for assistance, and that Epstein's cellmate told him that Epstein had tried to hang himself from the bunk bed ladder. By the way, Epstein's like was 6'1" at the time. Those bunk beds are like way shorter than him, so I don't even know how he killed himself, supposedly. Disciplinary charges against Epstein for alleged self-mutilation or attempted suicide were not sustained due to insufficient evidence. Okay, so they have insufficient evidence that he tried to commit suicide or self-mutilate himself. Does that mean they have sufficient evidence that someone else tried to hurt him? So despite the fact that the prison had insufficient evidence for self-mutilation charges against Epstein, they, on the 23rd, after the 23rd incident, the psychology department determined Epstein needed to be housed with an appropriate cellmate. And on July 30th, it sent an email to over 70 MCC New York employees informing them of this requirement. The warden at the time told the OIG that he selected a new cellmate for Epstein in consultation with the Bureau of Prisons executive leadership. That inmate remained Epstein's cellmate until August 9th. Okay, let's look at your comments. Now it's time to chat. All right, so I think the change is due. Okay, so Steve Ladner says, you need to cry about the Epstein case and get it out of your system because it's cut and dried. Well, if it's cut and dried for you, I'm not sure why you're here, because it's certainly not cut and dried for me, but, you know, investigate it and, you know, please make it cut and dried for me. Save me the work. I'd appreciate it. Welcome, by the way. Steve Lanner says, I live a few blocks from the Rio Grande and watched Border Patrol agents facilitate an invasion for a paycheck and pension, and you think the government... Okay, well, actually, I'm not even talking about the government's role in protecting. I think their job is to protect us. That's what we pay taxes for. I'm more of the spirit of protect our borders, put out our fires, arrest our criminals type of protection. But yeah, no, that's actually the contract. That's why you pay taxes, to get a certain level of protections from the government. Absolutely. Autumn, welcome. I think the timing is funny since King Bibi has been buddying up with Trump. If Epstein was Mossad, MI6, CIA, it means intel agencies run the president, not the president running intel agencies. I could talk on the intel agencies part. I do find the timing very interesting with Netanyahu coming to town and then this case being shut down. It's hard to ignore. And we'll explore that in the near future. As far as like if Epstein was Mossad, MI6, CIA, it means intel agencies run the president. Okay, so first of all, most of the intel agencies, and as you know, I have a background with intel agencies for almost 3 decades, they tend to share assets or platforms. So let's say Jeffrey Epstein was running a blackmail ring. I believe he'd have to get bankrolled to set it up the way he did, because let's face the facts. 1977, he started his little company. He went from a college dropout to teaching at the Dalton School. It was Barr's father that actually got him the job, William Barr's father. And then all of a sudden he's fabulously, I mean, insanely wealthy. Insanely wealthy. and friends with everyone, connected with everyone. He seemed to have no door he couldn't get through. So let's say his job was to blackmail people. It seems to me, based on the variety of people allegedly on the list, and on the list that we saw and on the black book that we have access to, he was hitting a lot of different countries, a lot of different people, a lot of different industries, science, academics, the financial world. So he had, if he was recording these things and he was blackmailing people, it's very likely that he was a pay-to-play type of guy. So, for instance, a platform is something that, in the intel speak, a platform would be like a privately owned bank. So let's say I own the Acme Bank, okay, and the CIA approaches me, or MI6, or Mossad, and they'll say, hey, we want to run some money through your bank. I'll say, sure, great. Let's get started. I'm a platform. I'm facilitating the logistics of their operation. My bank isn't spying on anyone. I'm just moving money. Now other countries are going to come along. They're going to say, hey, I heard from our Five Eyes buddy over there that you can launder some good money. Can we use it too? It'll be like, sure, let me run it by them. If they're okay with it, we're good. That's how it works. And I've seen meetings where there's a platform with a platform owner, and there's multiple countries at the table, and they're all paying a lot of money to be at that table and to use that platform. So think of a platform kind of like a car wash, or think of a platform kind of like an airport. Or actually, a great example. A platform is a lot like that hotel on John Wick, okay, where they all have different missions, they all have different bosses, they all have different agendas. But if they're in the club, they can use that platform for a hefty price. So if he was a blackmail platform, I could see multiple countries using that. And then the danger of that type of platform and running that kind of platform is you might get used to go against the enemy of this country, and then all of a sudden the next administration, those countries are friends. Well, now you've got to go. So that, I know that creates a lot more leads, but that's how the intel platforms work. We don't have direct evidence that he was working for intel agencies or as an asset for intel agencies. I don't think he was ever a direct employee of an intel agency, because he'd be forced to deliver pizzas as a second job, because GS-13 just isn't going to buy you an island. But he is the type of guy that would be used as an asset or a platform. He's got influence, he's got reach, or he was groomed into that position by Mossad, let's just say, just because of Maxwell's associations. And they cultivate him, and they get him the connections, they get him the money, and they get buy-in from other countries, and that's where all the money comes from. That's how these things work. A lot of times, actually most of the time, assets, never, like, will go to, let's say it's a CIA asset, they never go to headquarters. They're never seen. They actually have code names within the agency that go on the reports. I'll make one up. It'll be like, if I'm writing a report, it'll be like, so I met with, MC Crackerjacks on the 9th of December. We had a great meeting, paid him his money, he's doing well. Okay, but you'll never see like a name on an intel report. There's always, it's a pseudo. So that's that. All right, so the other thing is, so they never, the way it works is, let's say the CIA is going to recruit an asset. Let's say that asset is someone that owns a big media platform, like news media. They're not going to invite the guy to the CIA and say, hey, come on over here. First of all, someone at that level is going to say, go pound sand, because you go to them. They don't go to you. As powerful as people think the CIA is, remember, the people they recruit sometimes at a certain level are much more powerful. Okay, and they're happy to have recruited them. So what they'll do is they'll go and they'll get a meeting with the lawyers, and then the lawyers say, so what do you want to do? And then, you know, the agency person will pretend to be like an investor or something like that, even though everyone at the table knows he's not. And they'll say, well, we can do some work together. It's just like a real business meeting. It's like a real business relationship with first world assets. In the third world, it's a little different. Sometimes you can pay them a 6-pack of beer and some cut, and they'll do whatever you want. But the point is, at that level, you're going to be going, meeting, having a deal, and then money's going to flow through a series of cutout banks that go through a series of islands, and then things start rolling. That's how that works. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really answering or addressing your point, Autumn, but what I am saying is that I wouldn't get stuck on it's this agency or this agency or this agency. At that level, it tends to be multiple countries, multiple agencies. Can you use this guy? Yes, we can. I mean, look at Curveball that led to the Iraq War. That was an asset given to it. That was the guy that said they were making the yellow cake and all that. Curveball was actually a German asset, and the Germans came to us and said, hey, you know, we don't really trust this guy, but if you want him, you can use him. And it's even like with satellites, okay, with like signals intelligence. You know, they'll be like, hey, you know, 589, whatever, we got some room on this. Do you want to take over? Yeah, I'll take over coverage of that. That's how it's all shared. So, you know, I would caution people not to think it's this or this agency or this agency or this country or this country. It's probably multiple countries, multiple agencies, if at all. The other thing that Autumn, I've talked to you about, but I don't know if I've talked to the rest of the audience about, be careful as well that something that might look like CIA or FBI or God knows what else might have the same pattern of those operations. So for instance, if you see a movement gets subverted, okay, like a activist movement, and it has all the hallmarks of the FBI or the CIA, just right down to the type of earpieces they're using, don't automatically assume it's government. And the reason I say this is because in the height of the war on terror, enduring freedom, whatever you want to call it, there's a great book that came out, and I lived in DC and I was working in the intel community at that time. But at the height of that, probably 2009, I'd say, from 2003, probably 2011, there were so many top secret clearances with all the caveats that there was a book that came out by the 2 Washington Post journalists back when the Washington Post was doing okay journalism. It was never great, but the book was really good because they had a book and it's called Top Secret America. And there were so many top secret clearances that were issued after 9/11 that they estimated that there were, for every 2.5 people in the Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC metro area, for every 2.5 people, there was 1 clearance. So basically, almost every other person had a clearance. It was insane. And trust me, they're not joking, because everyone had a clearance. Every building seemed to be owned by the DIA or the CIA or the DOE has a massive intelligence apparatus. HHS has a huge one since 2014. So yeah, it could be someone who's left the intelligence community and got hired on by a law firm, or got hired on by one of the many contractors that run most of DC. For instance, Ridge Global, formed by Tom Ridge, who was the first DHS secretary. Or there's another one, the Chertoff Group, formed by Michael Chertoff. I actually did an interview with them for my little company where they kind of put me on their roster. And they'll use PIs and everything like that to go do part of a job. And they're actually doing it for clients and lawyers, for their clients through lawyers. Okay, so the lawyer of a big client will come and meet with the Chertoff Group and say, hey, we need some people to do this. And then they reach down to subcontractors and they say, okay, we need you to do this. And you get one slice of that. It's one little independent contractor agreement. It says, go do stationary surveillance on this building, report on anyone that goes in or out. That's it. That's all you know. And they have 4 other teams doing 4 other parts of that job. Now, to the casual observer who might run into that, they might say, man, that looks like the FBI over there. Man, that looks like the CIA. I used to work with those guys. And maybe they were. But if I go and do surveillance, or I go and do a job, it's going to have a certain flavor because that's what I did for 30 years. So always remember that. It's also the reason why I would get hired to do things like competitive intelligence or anything. So, all right. So just wanted to put that out there. All right. And thanks, Autumn, for coming in. Sorry, guys. I'm a little out of it. I don't know why. Probably because I was doing this all night. Okay. Sin-O, hey. Good to see you. Thanks for your show. Always enjoy hearing your breakdowns. Good to see you back, Sin-O. Steve Ladner. I hope Naomi has Shelley Luther back on the show in the near future because she's the real deal. Shelley Luther, drop a link, Steve. I will mention that to Naomi. I don't know who Shelley Luther is, but I will definitely mention that to her. Thanks. Bondi was AG in Florida when Epstein was doing a sex trafficking in Florida. I think you're right. I don't think she was the AG. Now, Autumn, are you talking about 2005 she was the AG? I guess she could have been. I haven't, it's in my notes somewhere, but I'm trying to stay on track. But if you got those dates, yeah, please drop a link or just shoot me an email. You know my email. And I know she was, and yeah, I've been trying to pull all her case files and anything involved with Epstein, but I've also been pulling, and I don't want to get off track, but guys, definitely look at the Ballard Partners list, okay, for Pam Bondi. Let's do a quick sidebar on that, but first, before I do, I have to thank my sponsors, because otherwise I can't do the show, or I can do it, but I'll just get way skinnier because I'll have nothing to eat. The way our sponsors work as well, because there was a conspiracy theory on this, it's affiliate marketing. So anytime you buy something, we get like a small percentage of that sale, and that's pretty much how it works. That being said, we only sell products we use. Okay, so that's why I'm not always promoting a ton of different products. We actually had a company recently, it just came on, and the firm that matches us with companies, like, here's the ad reads for this company. I looked at the company name and I was like, that seems like a fake company, and sure as shit it was. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to read that, not going to promote that. So I actually do my own due diligence on every company that we promote. And so the companies I promote, part of that due diligence, I use our products. So the first one is Native Path. Okay, and Native Path, you can see it rolling on the bottom there. Native Path, I use the Native Hydrate electrolyte mix. It's like amino acids. I drink that every morning. It's, I actually have some in my cup right here, and I mix it with some watermelon. Delicious, like Gatorade, except it's way healthier, and it just fills you up in the morning. You wake up tired and sleepy and dehydrated because you've been asleep for 8 hours. Native Hydrate just spruces you right up and throughout the day because it's packing in those amino acids that you're not getting. The other product that they have is their collagen and collagen peptides. Collagen is just something you need. It's like the mortar for your body. Okay, and it actually has 8 grams of protein too, which I didn't know, which is nice. And it's a tasteless, odorless powder. It's a byproduct of cows, and you put it in. I put it in coffee. I put it in my shakes in the morning, and I do collagen all the time. I love collagen, and I have way less aches and pains because I'm 51 now, and I was starting to get those weird aches and pains, and anyone in this age group, or if you're nearing 50 or over 50, you go from like hopping out of bed in the morning to waking up with a sprained ankle, and you don't even know how you got a sprained ankle. Collagen really fixes that because your body stops producing collagen at about 28 years old, so you have to replace that stuff. So again, think of it like you're like sealing the basement. It cracks, you got to put more sealant in there. If you just let it keep cracking, it's going to crack apart. That's what collagen is. Just kind of holds everything together. Not really a scientific explanation of collagen, but I'll tell you what, it works. And I know it works because I don't feel the difference when I'm using it because I use it every day, but I sure feel the difference when I forget to bring collagen on a trip with me, as I've relayed in many of these. And now when I travel, I have a Ziploc bag with a collagen serving a day for every day I'm on that trip, Mix it with milk, mix it with coffee, whatever you want to do. Naomi actually puts it in things she bakes, which is kind of cool. So you want to go to nativehydrate.com/daily clout, or go to nativepath.com/daily clout. You're going to get a big discount with that. And Native Path is going to call us and say, hey, thanks. People seem really happy. And you'll see their testimonials. We've had their CEO on the show many times. He's a great guy and believes in his product, and you're going to feel a lot better. And I want to know what you think too of that. So I'm always promoting that. And honestly, I would promote them if they weren't an affiliate sponsor, because I would promote collagen, and there's like the best around. The other one I want to talk about is, where'd it go? Oh yeah, sorry. There's the collagen one. All right, we'll come back to the Wellness Company, our other sponsor, after I take more of your comments. Takes us a while to warm up, guys, I know, but once you get warmed up, it gets cool. All right, let me drink my Native Path. Okay. All right, so Steve Ladner. People that can buy and sell islands, amuse themselves, are not concerned about laws and rules. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because you're right. They're not. And I think that's why he was so cocky in all of these trials. He knew he'd be bailed out. You can buy your way out of so many things these days, so I totally agree with you. Mar-a-Lago is based in my hometown, LOL. You're in Michigan, aren't you? God, I can't wait to set up a call-in show. It's going to be a lot better. By the way, guys, follow Anti-Corrupt. She's great. Anti-Corrupt, if you pop your X profile up there, way people can find you. She's doing fantastic research. She is going to be on the show. She was supposed to come on the show 2 weeks ago. I had to go to, I went to a wedding in England of the actor Lawrence Fox and his beautiful wife Elizabeth. They got married. He's public enemy #1 over there because, God forbid, he believes in free speech. Real warrior, warrioress, and really, really happy to have them as friends in my life. And it was the wedding was performed by Dr. Calvin Robinson, another incredible freedom fighter, and another really good friend, and many, many other people were over there. So they're all asleep right now, but it was a great trip. We really enjoyed it. Not a big fan of England. I don't like driving on the other side of the road. Haven't driven a stick shift since I was 25, and hadn't slept, so I was on the wrong side of the road with the stick shift with no sleep. That was a hellacious 2-hour drive. And there's just nowhere to park, and they just literally, it's like such a nanny state. It's insane over there. We'll get into that on another show. Let me see. Is he still alive? Is Epstein still alive? Well, that question has come up. I've seen no evidence to say to the contrary. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see for sure. YouTuber said Epstein Ranch is still being used in New Mexico. Hey, Digibabe Nomad, I know who you are. Welcome back. If you can post that YouTube link, I would definitely look at it. I'd like to hear who's using it. I know it got sold. I think the Palm Beach one got demolished, which is weird. But yeah, please repost it. Reza reposted this stream. Hey, Reza, thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome, and good to have you. Okay. Don Johnson, good to see you back. Hey now. Hey now. Marianne reposted the stream. Thanks, Marianne. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so we're supposed to believe... Okay, come on. We're supposed to believe everything the DOJ says now? No. No. But... what you're okay, so, and I know what you're talking about when I said this is what we know. No, I'm not saying believe it. I'm saying that's what we have. Okay, so if we look at what's on the screen here, I put it in quotes here, right? I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that's truly what they put on their official report. And why is that important? Well, it's important because I think in this report, they were trying to be so thorough, they actually gave out too much details if they were trying to hide something. But no, I mean, the whole point of this is to figure out if who's telling the truth and who's not. I think we all can agree, just it's all our opinion, it's not a fact, but it's very strong opinion based on common sense that a lot of people are not telling the truth in this case. But don't misread my being carefully objective for thinking the DOJ is someone I trust, because trust me, you know my family's history and my own history, you know I don't trust them and they don't trust me. So you know, me and my wife come from very different backgrounds, I'll just put it that way. But the point is, yeah, so what we're doing, this is intel, right? So we collect everything we can and we read through it, because how someone messages anything is good information as well, as you'll see. So let's continue on, and I'll take more comments in a bit. Yeah, I agree. And I don't have the other coroner report, but I totally agree. Let's get to it. Holy cow. Yes, sorry. I got off on a tangent. I haven't slept in 3 days looking at this stuff. All right, so here we go. Okay, so what are the things we have, right? We have, in this report, they say, after accusing his cellmate of trying to kill him, he then requested the same roommate. That one is definitely one that needs to be highlighted, because that seems like a whole load of bullshit to me. Now, we'll never know, because, you know, dead men don't speak, but that really stood out at me. Like, unless he's lost his mind, who would do that? Okay. So there's a million things we should look at with that, but let's keep going. So again, they put him on the psychological watch and getting him the special cellmate, even though they determined he didn't try to self-mutilate, which indicates that they didn't think he was suicidal. That's how I read that. So these are my key takeaways. 1, why was he only on suicide watch for 24 hours after it was believed that he tried to commit suicide? Okay, and the reason why is because that roommate stayed with him for 3 more days. So obviously they didn't think the roommate was trying to kill, or the cellmate was trying to kill him. Or another thing that we have to explore is, maybe that's why they left him in the cell, because they knew he tried to kill him. They wanted to give him another shot at it. Why not? Okay, why did the MCC decide to leave the sane inmate in a cell with Epstein for 3 days? If it was unclear if Epstein had attempted suicide or he'd been attacked, that's a huge question. Huge question. Why did they let this guy stay with him for 3 days? And by the way, I've had family members in prison. I'm sure I hope none of you have, but if you have, or you have friends that have been in prison. Actually, my good friend Dexter Taylor is in prison right now for legally assembling guns in his apartment. He's been on the show a few times via Secure US. One thing that doesn't happen in prison is your request doesn't mean shit. Okay? You can't say, I want this roommate, but not this one. It doesn't matter. Even if you're Epstein and people are trying to kill you, okay, or the world hates you, or you're a pedophile in prison, as you all know, that's the lowest of the low. Of course, he had a lot of money, so he could have prepaid a lot of people off. I'm pretty sure he knew he was going to get arrested. We don't know. Those are good leads. But number 3 key takeaway for just that section is, why did MCC's psychology department determine Epstein needed to be housed with an appropriate cellmate? How do they define appropriate? Why was the psych department making the determination if there was insufficient evidence that Epstein had tried to commit suicide, aka self-mutilation? This is what I do when I go through these. I highlight and then I ask myself questions. I call them, and these will become, as you'll see at the end of this investigation, we break down this big mess into questions like this, and then you start answering each little question. Okay, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. Instead of trying to say, it was this country or this that was behind it. Well, that's hard to do. Okay, that's a lot of moving parts. And I'm sure when you guys look at this, you're like, God, where do I start? Because that's where I am, even with all my experience. I'm always like, God, where do I start with this? So that's what I do. I make a timeline, and then questions like this pop out at me. Okay, we move on. August 8th, 2019. This is where it gets weird, guys. This is where it gets really weird. And this is from the report, that 128-page report. August 8th, 2019, U.S. Marshals Service notifies numerous MCC NY employees that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility on August 9th. Wait, what? Like, what? Are you... Why? We need to find out who this cellmate was. Maybe someone has. But the U.S. Marshal Service notifies numerous MCC-NY employees that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility. That line, let's break that down really quickly. This is very important to break down. First of all, why would the U.S. Marshals be contacting employees directly? Unless this is the report's way of saying contacted the Bureau. But it doesn't, this something about this doesn't ring right. How were they contacting so many different employees? Why were they contacting employees directly? This report does not indicate that it was going through any sort of chain of command. It just says what it says, and here's the quote. On August 8th, the U.S. Marshal Service sent 2 emails notifying numerous MCC New York staff that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility on August 9th. What amazing timing. However, no action was taken to ensure Epstein was assigned another roommate. That's another important point too, guys. Because look, you just had the psychology department say it was very important to get the appropriate cellmate, but then all of a sudden it's not. All right, so let's kind of chew on this for a second. What does that mean? What could that mean? Like, now it doesn't matter that he has an appropriate cellmate. Is that because they were going to bring someone in who's better, who could get the job done? Is that because they wanted him to commit suicide? I mean, whatever was happening here, remember the name of this report is CARE, is in the title, the care of prisoners. They didn't care what happened to Epstein. Personally, I don't either, but I kind of wish he was still alive because there's a lot of answers that died with him. So they say, all right, so we got the U.S. Marshals moving his cellmate on death eve, the night before he gets killed or committed suicide or gets dead. Let's just put it that way. Weird coincidence. And it gets better. And again, don't forget, this is from this report. Okay. Official report went through the OIG and was validated at the very top levels of the Department of Justice. All right. Okay. August 9th, 2019. Same day. Epstein meets with his attorneys at the prison and signed a last will and testament. Whoa. So the 2 days before he dies or gets dead, he signs a will and testament. Now, it says right here on August 8th, Epstein met with his attorneys at the prison, as he had on prior occasions, and signed a new last will and testament. MCC New York officials did not learn about the new will until after Epstein's death. There's another key word here that I just caught now. I don't know what it means, but I notice here they say the new will. Now, if anyone knows the prison system, I admittedly don't know it that well. I will. Were they aware that he had an old will? Was the Bureau of Prisons, do you make a will when you go to prison? He wasn't on death row. So why did they say the new will? It indicates to me that they had knowledge of an existing will. This could be a slip. Okay, this could be a slip. So I'm actually going to highlight that. And guys, by the way, I'm going to be building on the same document, and I'm publishing this on my Substack. It is free subscriptions. However, this takes a lot of time. So if you have any ability to get a small subscription, I really appreciate it. I'm going to do it anyways if you don't. But if you do a free subscription or share it, and like people are retweeting the show, I really appreciate that too. But yeah, this will all be on Substack, and I will take this document here and embed it in the Substack as well. All the links are live. I've archived every link I looked up that wasn't archived, just so you know, on the Wayback Machine. All right. August 9th. This is the day before his death. Epstein's new cellmate. This is my summary here. Epstein gets a new cellmate, 2,000 pages of documents from Maxwell's civil litigation are unsealed, and Epstein is allowed to make an unauthorized call to his mother, who'd been dead since 2004. All right, so the following day, August 9th, Epstein's cellmate was transferred to another facility, and he was not assigned a new cellmate. Additionally, on that date, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit unsealed approximately 2,000 pages of documents in the civil litigation involving, I always mispronounce it, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was later convicted in December 2021 of conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors over the course of a decade. The documents contain substantial derogatory information about Epstein, the ones that were unsealed, and there is extensive media coverage of information in the unsealed documents. Also on August 9th, after meeting at the prison with his lawyers, MCC's New York staff allowed Epstein to make, in violation of their own policy, an unrecorded, unmonitored telephone call before he was returned to his special housing unit cell. Although Epstein said he was calling his mother, in actuality, he called someone with whom he allegedly had a personal relationship. Later in the report, you'll see he somehow called Belarus. Someone in Belarus. At approximately 8 p.m. on August 9th, SHU inmates were locked in their cells for the night, including Epstein, who was without a cellmate. A search of, and guys, I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. He didn't get a new cellmate. He lost his cellmate. A search of Epstein's cell following his death revealed Epstein had excess prison blankets, linens, and clothing in his cell, and that some had been ripped to create nooses. Only one SHU cell search was documented on August 9th, and it was not of Epstein's cell. BOP records did not indicate when Epstein's cell was last searched. OIG also found that SHU staff did not conduct any 30-minute rounds after about 10:40 p.m. On August 9th, and that none of the required SHU inmates counts were conducted after 4 p.m. on August 9th. Count slips and round sheets were falsified to show that they had been performed. So these guys basically said, yeah, we did them. They were just sitting on their night shift, not checking anything. Okay. So that's August 9th. Now, I haven't done this analysis yet because I ran out of time today, but I'm comparing these time hacks in the report to the time hacks on the video that they released, even though we know the video was doctored according to Wired magazine, but we got to roll with that for now. Okay. So on August 8th, 2019, U.S. Marshals, we already did that. August 10th, Jeffrey Epstein's found in his cell. Okay. Now, let me pull up the report, because there's things in there that I didn't get a chance to get on this screen yet. So we're just going to pull that up. Give me a second. It's just very interesting, the stuff that's in this report that it's, so many people have not looked at, or, I didn't even think to look at it. All right, but let me just call this up on my new drive here. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I will be better prepared next time. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to pull up the original report. I downloaded the oldest archive version of it because I don't trust them not to change things in any of our government offices, no matter who's in charge. And here we go. Here it is. All right. So got the Epstein files, Mangione, and there it is. Lots of PDFs. Yep. Okay. All right. So let me pull this right up on the screen for you. There we go. Okay, so let me get that. Okay, share the screen. All right, there it is. Okay, so here is that report. All right. So this is what I was just reading from. Make it as big as I can. And I'm going to put the chat down for now, just so we can all see this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so these are the events of his death. Okay, he did the last will. I just want to make sure I got all that. All right. Unmonitored phone call. Okay, on August 10th at approximately 6:30 a.m., the two SHU staff on duty, Noel and material handler Michael Thomas, began delivering breakfast to SHU inmates. Remember that time, 6:30. This on the 10th. Noel unlocked the door to Epstein's SHU tier. When Thomas attempted to deliver breakfast to Epstein through the food slot in his locked cell door, Epstein did not respond to Thomas's verbal commands. Thomas unlocked the cell door and saw Epstein hanged. Thomas immediately yelled for Noel to get help and call for emergency medical services. Thomas told OIG when he entered Epstein's cell, Epstein had orange string, presumably from a shirt or sleeve of a shirt, around his neck that was tied to the top portion of the bunk bed. Epstein was suspended from the top bunk in a near seated position with his buttocks approximately 1 inch to 1 inch and a half above the floor. Thomas said he immediately ripped the orange string from the bunkhead, and Epstein's buttocks dropped to the ground. Thomas then lowered Epstein's body to the... Let me just pause for a second. I get the impression that this guy, Noel, was being questioned about the positioning of the body or where the body was. That's important to note because he's making a lot of details about, how Epstein was positioned the way he was positioned when other people arrived. Thomas then entered, lowered body to the floor, and he began chest compressions until responding MCC New York staff members arrived approximately 1 minute later. Okay, so if they call these people, right, 1 minute later, you would assume that they're going to show up with stretchers and everything like that. Wait for it. Shortly thereafter, outside medical personnel arrived and took over their emergency response, eventually removing Epstein to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. On August 11th, 2019, the office chief medical examiner performed an autopsy and determined, he was dead by suicide. We definitely question that one. All right. And then they go on to say it looked like suicide. They didn't have defensive wounds and all that. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's look at the video really quickly. So we're already past an hour, but I'm gonna hang in there for a few because I started late. Because I just want to wrap this section up with a look at the video, and I think that's important. So let me just call that up. Okay. So, and that, by the way, that's just the beginning of the report. There's a lot more in there. They get into details. So that's like an overview of everything. There's a lot more detail in chapters. I highly recommend everyone read it, go through it. If you're investigating this, just go through it. There's a lot of info in there. And, what you'll find is when you... I'm just waiting for the video to come up. But when you dive into things like this and you tune out all the left-wing, right-wing news, the constant change, Dan Bongino's mad, Dan Bongino's not mad, when you tune all that out and you dive into the past, all of a sudden you see a lot more things that kind of dictate what's happening today. You see a lot more players. You're like, that's odd. I know that name. If you ever read comic books, as a kid, I loved comic books. I remember opening my first X-Men. It was like issue 113. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know why this guy didn't like this guy, what their powers were. But then they link you to another comic book, and then you recognize a character, and then you recognize something that happened now that you're on your 100th comic book. And it's just like this. The more of this you read, the more you can connect the dots really quickly. And read it all. It's actually not bad reading, considering the topic. All right, so here is my media folder. Okay, here we go. So this is camera change. Okay. Let me load that. Yep, that's the one. Good. All right, so I did some editing here. This is the This is the damn. Oh, I hate this new computer, guys. If anyone has a better recommendation, please let me know. All right, it's literally going nuts right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I can see it. Okay, so I wanted to show you this first of all because this is the you heard about the missing minute. That really happens. I think Pam Bondi said, "Oh, it resets all the time." No, that's not really true. But also the aspect ratio changes. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing the camera was actually shut off, or someone removed maybe the SD card from it and repositioned it. But watch right at this mark here, and then we'll get to what I was talking about. But while we're here, okay, see that? Go back. All right. Now I'll let that run. See that? Like the whole aspect ratio changed. Anyone who knows cameras a little better than me, I use them. I don't know the tech behind them. I find that really odd. Okay. A couple other odd things here too. Let me look at my notes. It says, all right. Okay, so, okay, this is interesting too. Later in this report I was reading, the two inmates, they said they heard something happen between 12 and 1 o'clock. Now, I don't know if these guys have watches or not, but two different inmates said around midnight they heard something. Then another one says around 1-ish. And if they don't have watches, they're just estimating. But I do want to point another thing out too. Let me pause this for a second. This is not his cell. All right. You see this little sliver right here? There's some stairs that go up right there. You get just a sliver of it. If you go up these stairs, his cell is, you could see it. If you're sitting at the desk that's here on the other side of this wall, you can see his cell, not into it, but you can see the door. But there's stairs right here. Now what's messed up about this, really messed up, is this is it. This is the 10 hours that Pam Bondi said, oh, this proves no one went in a cell. You could literally go from the desk that's over here and go up the right-hand side of the stairs and no one's going to see you. Like at the end of the video, you'll see when the emergency staff, which I never really saw them, is supposedly going up. You might see a little blemish right here, and I'll make some diagrams out of this and blow it up. But so that's what you're looking at, that little sliver right there. I compared this against the diagrams that are in this report of his cell. This is not his cell. This is the cell. This is where the prison guard sits. And you see this is stairs right here. Okay, this is a tier. This is a tier. And then there's another tier over here. That's the tier he's in. I believe this is the exit to go in and out of this area. But that's where they're sitting. Now, the other thing that happens here is if we get to... There's one I wanted to show you because it's really weird. It almost looks like at some point there seems to be a guard. God, I gotta find it. There's one of the guards here. Looks like he's almost doing like lookout. 11:57 guard stops away from desk, steps away from desk. At 11:57, other guard goes to the fridge at 12. Fridge guard change. Okay, yeah. So, okay, 12. Let me go back. Okay, yeah, watch this. At the midnight and 28-second mark, watch right here. It almost seems like some guy or some guard they stop here, and it looks like they're staring up here. Now, this is the only functioning camera at that time. And again, we're collecting. I don't know what it means, but it did strike me. All right, so right here, I wonder if I could blow this up. Let me hit play, sorry. Okay, see this guard here? Just staring. 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 Like just looking up this way for a long time. Does that mean that guard is looking to see if anyone's entering from this tier? Because something's happening behind that guard in Epstein's tier. Still standing there, by the way, staring in this direction. And then goes back to the desk. So it comes all the way back here. Let me show you again. If you guys saw that, that one really stuck out at me because I was going through it the other night when it first came out. And I think it's actually earlier than that. Okay, watch. Guard, time changes. Guard gets up. Right there. Right there. Guard was sitting at the desk. It's 15 seconds past midnight. We just lost a minute. Now watch this guard. Comes over. Facing our direction. And is just standing there. Staring in this direction. And if you look closely at the video, it almost looks like the guard looks back here. And then continues staring in this direction. Possibly at another tier as well. But still standing there. For almost a whole minute. For no reason. Not talking to anyone or anything. And then goes back to the desk. Just mark that. That's at the 12:20 midnight and 20-second mark. That was really odd. Okay. Change angles. I just want to make sure I covered everything that I wanted to share with you. Guard stares at lookouts at the 12:20 mark. Then the guard leaves. So at 1:39, the guard leaves. Okay. Oh, yeah. Also, okay, so now someone's coming up the tier. All right. So this is another tier. This guard calls, they unlock the door. Now, I just want to point out something, too. This guard forgets to shut the door. Okay, and they're talking about, like, oh, no one could have gotten in or out. I mean, watch. This guy literally forgets to shut the door. And that is at the 12:01. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Whoops. Left the door open. That goes to another tier. Maybe I should shut that. Yeah, that's right. Remember to shut it. That's at 12:02:17. Make sure I got it. All right, so now if you go, I'm going to call up another one here. We'll just do this last one, and I'm gonna actually play it on the outro, so you don't have to listen to me like analyze it with you. But I just want to play the last part. So remember, they found him in his cell at 6:30, and 1 minute later, the medics arrived supposedly and all that. I just want to point out that I don't see a stretcher. I don't see any urgency in this last part, but I'm not going to play it yet. I'm just going to call it up. Okay, and this is, so now you see we're at, and by the way, I had it on fast forward earlier, so, okay, so I'll leave that up for a second. Let me show you my big ugly head again, and we will just summarize, and then I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do this all week. All right, so what have we covered tonight? Well, let's cover your comments first, and I'll get this new laptop fixed so I can actually read things here, man. I'm losing it. All right. And I actually, if you guys are still there, I want your comments on what I just saw. Hey now, John Johnson. Marianne reposted the stream. Thank you. Didn't break. Nope, I agree with you, Didi. Didn't break his own neck. Okay, and then, hey, everyone is talking about this. Jimmy Dore and Kurt Mixon rocked it today. I'll check it out. Are they talking about the video itself? Because I'm not trying to scoop it. I want all of them talking about this. Like, I don't care like about the headlines or being a podcast star. I just want to share this stuff with you and make sure we're all looking at it. It's okay, Brian. Thanks. I don't know what I did. Those YouTubers are professional were warned not to post the video and have not posted in 2 years. Bill Richardson was an... Yeah, I believe that, Digibabe. Totally believe that. There's my cousin Ernie, Walter Kim, reveal anything new on Luigi. No, honestly, he's talking about that interview on Tucker Carlson. I think, I won't go into it too much. I was listening to that, and I think that guy made, I think the depth of his research seemed to be whatever was on mainstream media, both right and left. Luigi Mangione case, like, we still don't, they have a writer that he was kind of going over the Luigi Mangione case, and I don't know, I think he was forcing a lot of circles into squares, saying that, Luigi Mangione created this perfect crime for the social media age. I think that was his thesis, and then he decided to, confirm that assumption. You guys will have to listen to the Tucker Carlson interview. It was, in my opinion, disappointing. I know the Luigi Mangione case extremely well, and I cannot stand when high-named individuals say things like, well, the reason Luigi did it, or the guy hasn't been convicted yet. We don't know who was in that hood. We know a guy in a hood shot Brian Thompson. That's all we know. We never saw Luigi Mangione's face. I won't go into it, but past episodes, you guys can check it out. All right. You are terrific. So is your wife. Hey, thanks. Funk and Beauty, what a great name. Both contribute so much to our thoughtful conversation. Your dinner table must be a great feast of thoughtful discussion. Well, we normally don't have a dinner table because she's going on podcasts a lot, and then I have a night show. So like tonight, I started the short ribs, and then I think I oversalted them, and then she was eating salad. I said, what happened to short ribs? And she said, they're too salty. And then she went to bed, and then I'm still up doing this. But when we do have dinner, we have great conversations. But, we normally don't talk about politics and those kind of things. I mean, we'll use each other as interlocutors, but, she's talking about this stuff a lot more than I am. I like to focus on individual cases, but she's on a lot of podcasts. So usually when we go for a ride or something like that, you should listen to like a audio book. But I will say this, our favorite thing to watch together, it took me a long time. It took me a year to get her to shoot a gun. It took me 4 years to get her to watch true crime. But now she's watching true crime, and she really is addicted to it. What we're watching right now is called My Worst Nightmare, or Your Worst Nightmare, on Discovery. Really bad acting, but they're really enjoyable for some reason. So, all right, Dee Dee, it's all too fishy, and he couldn't have possibly broken his own neck with a... Yeah, totally agree with you. They're trying to say he choked himself with his linens, and there were a ton of linens in there, which made no sense. Redacted, the Jimmy Dore Show, Kim Iverson, Viva, and everyone else are talking about this. Yeah, they are. I had to because I already did the work on it. I'm trying to avoid talking about the political moves around this and why people are doing things politically. I just want to get right into the details, and and there's a lot more to dig through. This is also a very important case too because it's connected to Epstein was connected to so many people. And I'll tell you right now, like, the guy that got him into the Edge Foundation, that whole intelligentsia of academics and everything, well, that guy's name was John Brockman. Okay, John Brockman, at the time, that was my wife's agent, literary agent. He's like a super agent. Her uncle's with that agent. But if you pull up the BuzzFeed article from 2021, Naomi was interviewed in that. But yeah, John Brockman was her agent. I've had dinner with the guy multiple times. Like, these people are all connected. And isn't it funny? Just saying. That was right around the time the Weinstein thing was not winding down, but pretty... I think he'd gone to jail by like 2018, 19, or yeah, I think so. So she was very involved in that case, and so was I. I was actually helping some of Weinstein's victims. And then I started getting harassed by the media, who they were trying to say that I was a spy working with some other government. They didn't realize I was working with the Weinstein victims. And then the Epstein thing started happening. Now we knew who he was, but he wasn't in jail yet. But these allegations started coming up, and he was really well known in Manhattan where we were living, especially in those circles. And then I'll never forget, but she had brought up wanting to write a book about Weinstein and Epstein. And I won't go into too much detail because it's her business. I will say this. The rest of the dinner did not go well that night with the four of us. I ended it early because I'm not going to let anyone raise their voice. And that relationship pretty much cooled off very quickly after 3 decades of working together, those two. And when all this came to light with Epstein and everything, she immediately cut ties. She's like, oh, yeah, I can't be even affiliated with this. So you can see the reach is everywhere. My friend Hernando Arce was just saying the other day on Twitter that the office he rented for Taxi magazine, and Hernando's a great guy. He does a lot of the border reporting for us. He's not for us, for LFA TV. And he was in New York the other day. He's pointing out the place, and he used to rent it from Mark Epstein. These people own so much stuff. So that's why I think the Epstein thing's so important, is because it touches so much of America and industry and everything. It's like God knows how many cases peeling this case open will solve. This could answer a lot. This could answer a lot. I just found today there's a Soros connection, an actual Soros connection with Epstein. I did not know that. Maybe you guys did. He was, and actually Senator Menendez, you know, the scumbag that went to jail for taking gold bars as bribes, and his son is Congressman Menendez of New Jersey. Well, that guy's Senator Menendez's ex-girlfriend was going to the Epstein orgies, according to the New York Post and multiple reports. And then I found in the FEC documents, Epstein had donated $12.5 thousand to, her name's Gwendolyn Beck, to her 2014 campaign. So you see, all this shit's connected. And if you're connecting with senators and everything like that, it is affecting your life, because it's almost a form of regulatory warfare. It's a way of manipulating laws because someone has leverage over someone. So we need to find out who he had leverage over. Okay, who he had leverage over. And that's why I'm glad everyone's looking at this DD, for sure. Okay, so Funkin' Beauty, most people with simply home ownership have a will, so not a surprise that it's a new one given his fortune. I hear you, but it does seem like they were unaware of this new will. Like, you can assume someone has a will, but the way it's worded is really interesting, is they were unaware of this new will. That means they were aware of the old will. Now, it could be as well that because they monitor all these meetings, they slipped in there, and we all know they monitor them, and you consent to that when you go as a lawyer or anyone to a prison to be monitored. They might have listened so much, it just slipped and said, oh, he has a new will, because they're eavesdropping on the conversation as they're supposed to. Where was Epstein buried? Who attended the funeral? So many questions. I meant to look that up before the show ran out of time, but yes, I did want to look up his funeral. Where was he buried? God, I wonder if someone's going to try to dig him up. But how did he lower him to the floor when his body fell to the floor already in his previous sentence? That's a really good point, Ernie. You're right. Let me see here. He said, went to the floor. Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to call it up. Epstein was suspended from the top bunk in a near-seated position, with his buttocks approximately 1 inch to 1.5 inches off the floor. Thomas said he immediately ripped the orange string from the bunk bed, and Epstein's buttocks dropped to the ground. Thomas then lowered Epstein's body to the floor and began chest compressions. Okay, so I think what happens, buttocks hit the floor, then he lowered, it sounds like he's saying he lowered the top half, but it's a good catch. It's definitely something to look into. Every little detail is. So that's a good catch, Ernie. Steve Ladner, self-proclaimed heroes release video footage when it makes themselves look good. Who are you talking about? Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Like releasing this footage here. I think honestly, this was a like I think Pam Bondi just is really horrible at messaging and strategy. Like she's, in my opinion, she strikes me as a very dishonest person. Just been my feeling about her since before the nomination. The fact that she doubled down on the death penalty case for Mangione and said from her position, where he has not been convicted yet, doesn't matter if he did it or not, he hasn't been convicted or not, and she said, we're seeking the death penalty when he brazenly assassinated Brian Thompson. So she, as the top prosecutor in the country, has already biased the case against Mangione when she said that on April 1st. Then there was the Kirk Moore, Dr. Kirk Moore. I don't know if you guys followed that. She dismissed all his charges and everything. But just a few days ago, she had given her DOJ instructions to continue that case. And that was the COVID doctor that was doing something where like he was signing off that they got the COVID shot for people that had to, but then making sure they didn't get it. And he was being accused of like falsifying records and COVID cards and all that nonsense. It seems like a good guy, seems like a real hero. But I know just a few days ago, it was posted that Pam Bondi was continuing that case against him. And then all of a sudden, the heat's gotten so much with the Epstein fallout, as it should, that magically today she's like, oh, we're dismissing all the charges. Now, let's look at that with Bondi. And this investigation for me will shift to Bondi. Okay, it has to, because she has the most overlapping connections. But when she said the United Healthcare killer, she doubled down and said, we're going to seek the death penalty because he killed him. Well, one of her clients at Ballard was United Healthcare. And then the other day, she was continuing the case against Dr. Moore for falsifying things that said people got their shots. Well, one of her clients in the past was Pfizer. That's why there's so many things we have to look at with her, because there's a lot with this one. I've already found connections with her in the New York County's DA's office from this time. Whereas in other statements, she's saying, oh, New York's not working with us, not giving us the files. It's like, what are you talking about? Because half of those New York people work for you now. You're telling me they can't call New York County and get those things expedited? Something's up here. It's almost like she was placed in this position and is bringing all of her connections with her, and I just don't think they're good connections. Look at the client list at Ballard Partners. It's just, I can't get it off my mind. She's going after an anti-Pfizer, vaccine doctor, and her past client was a vaccine maker, the vaccine maker. She's going after the alleged killer of a United Healthcare CEO, and she used to get paid big bucks by United Healthcare, or at least her firm did. So there's a preponderance of evidence saying, yes, someone's corrupt. But who seems to have the most connections and takes money as a lobbyist from all the biggest, most powerful firms in our country? Pam Bondi. And she's pissed, too. If you guys saw the press conference today, like, people kept saying, what about Epstein? What about Epstein? She's like, she's pissed, because I honestly think, just like with those Epstein files, remember when she did the whole, they went out and said phase 1, top secret, blah, blah, blah. I actually think this woman thinks the American people are really stupid. I really think that, because you saw in the beginning of this episode, she's just like, yeah, no, that's a minute falls off all the days. Well, look, I mean, I'm sure all of you own security cameras, some really cheap ones, some really expensive ones. 2019 wasn't that long ago, okay? And the system wasn't that old. I think it went back to 2016. I mean, I bought my first, I bought my first Blink camera, I think in 2016. I'm still using it. There's no lapse. There's no as I think Candace Owens said on her show the other day, there's no daylight or daylight savings hour that disappears. Like, you record 24 hours, you get 24 hours. I mean, I've had a security license. I've installed a few systems. We all have. But if you heard that explanation, no, that was the minute that falls off all of them. We're going to look into that and show you more footage. So you can see a minute falls off every one of them. That makes no sense. But it's one of those things that, like, I'm sure when she rehearsed it in front of the mirror in the ladies' room over there at that, over at the White House, that she probably thought that sounded really smart, and how they're just going to go with it. And then she said, "Oh, no, I wasn't saying I had the client list. I was saying it's a file like all the other files." All I could think of is George Costanza in that Seinfeld episode where he was pretending to have the cane so he could get the private handicap bathroom. But he put the cane on the wrong side one day, and his boss like, "George, wasn't your cane on the other side?" He goes, "Oh, no, that's because you were coming at me. But you see, now you're walking near me, so it seems like it's on the different side." And he walks him in front of the mirror. He's like, "You see, left, right. It's a great thing." It just reminded me of Pam Bondi the other day. But I think this woman actually thinks the American people are stupid. There's a lot of people like that. They're really out of touch with the American people. I don't think Donald Trump thinks the American people are stupid. This doesn't seem to be his deal. I think, just like what I've heard with the Epstein file release, is like that happened, then he found out about it and he blew up. And it looks like he might be forcing the case to reopen or something like that. So what happens in a lot of these, kind of like management structures, or the White House, whatever you want to call it, is you do delegate and you trust people to do things based on these presidential directives. I just think she goes off script a lot, and then everyone else is left to deal with the mess. Now, could he have handled that better? Yes, absolutely. He shouldn't say, "You're still talking about Epstein." That was poorly handled. But if I were Donald Trump, because I think it's starting to weigh on him, like this is a bigger deal than he thought it would be. Like, this is not going to blow over. This could be his legacy, and it's not a legacy he wants. Because it is tearing our side, the MAGA side, the non-Marxist side, let's just put it that way, of America apart, because we don't have trust. We're not going to blindly trust. These are not the days where you blindly trust anymore. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I don't care if you're Jesus. Okay? If you say something and it makes no sense when all the evidence says to the contrary, I'm going to need more than just do it, or just believe me, or just trust me. No, we need more, and we deserve more, because a lot of us went through a lot of stuff to get this administration through. A lot of us, all of you as well, went through a lot of horrible stuff through through the years of Biden to make sure MAGA got into office. And if they want to stay in office and they want us to trust them because they need us and we need them, but this country is going to fall apart if they, I don't think I'm overstating it, if they don't fix this Epstein thing. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. It's going to fracture everything. And guess who's going to be back in power? The freaking Marxist Democrats. They've got to fix this. And this is rippling all over the world right now, too. Really reverberating in England. Yeah. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for tonight. I'm so tired, so I'm probably not making sense. We do have we're going to stick with Epstein. I do want to stick with this prison thing. Let me see here. Let me get to your last comments. Steve Ladner says, "Have you heard about the inmate that was being released from Harris County, Texas jail that supposedly attacked guard and lost his life?" I haven't, but if you, by the way, guys, if you want to email me leads or things you think I should cover on the show, just go to, I'm going to put it on the banner here. You can, well, I don't have the banner set up, so I messed up all my banners, damn it. Go ahead and go, well, here you go. So on the banner down below, I got a Substack, or you could DM me on X or just tag me on X. If you follow me, and I follow you back, then you can message me. But yeah, Steve, these kind of, anything like that, send it. People send me stuff all the time, and it's all useful because I save everything you guys send. The guards. So Steve, are you saying, have you heard about the inmate that was being released from Harris County Jail, supposed to attacked by guards and lost his life? I have not heard that. Actually, I haven't watched anything for like the last 3 days. I've been head down on this. Suicide seemed to happen. So I'll check it out if you send it to me. Suicide seemed to happen where they're linked to the same certain people. Yes, right? A lot of suicides around the Clintons. Have you noticed that? And here we are again, around the Clintons. Go read Ryan Dawson, Whitney Webb, Ed Opera, and Nick Ryan have reported on Epstein for many years. I know them all personally. I don't know the first one, but I've read so much of this stuff. I've read a lot of Whitney Webb stuff. I like going to the source. I do. I mean, I'm sure they don't, and I do read them too, but if I'm in a jam and I can't get past a certain analytical point, or I want to make sure I don't reinvent the wheel, then, I read them. But because I'm reading, and by the way, I have other cases that are for individual clients and private companies, mainly like due diligence on businesses or corrupt competitors. So that's my day job. So I'm reading like primary evidence all day. So I really don't have a lot of time to read a lot of these people's stuff. And to be quite honest, and I know all those names. I have respect for all of them. But it's just so much to read, so I'll probably listen to them on Audible. But I always, even if they do great work, I'm sure they do. I always tell people you're as good as your last job. So it's always important, even when you're reading them, double check their work. They appreciate it. Trust me. I've caught many people getting things wrong. And then, I'm like, I reached out to them and say, hey, this is not actually accurate. And they appreciated that. So, helps keep things tight. So, but by the way, Rev Man's Solution. If you send me a reading list, I'll put it up on my Substack and I'll check out some of your top recommendations and I will read them. So, I didn't mean to sound like I was blowing you off there. Just a little tired, that's all. But thanks, those are good recommendations. Prayer X10 says, yep. Ernie says, and now this video shows up when they previously said there was no video. It's a good point. And actually, I'll get to that tomorrow. I don't even... Oh, no, they did say that one camera was working. So remember, Ernie, that camera is a really bad view of just a sliver of the stairs that go up to Epstein's cell. But I guess they said in the report that all the cameras, like 50% of the cameras were down. That's what they say. But literally there's some inconsistencies when they're like, oh, and then we put in for this thing because we wanted to fix them. And they said here, recorded video evidence August 9th and 10th for the SHU area where Epstein was housed was only available from one prison security camera due to a malfunction of MCC New York's digital video recording system that occurred on July 29th, 2019. A malfunction occurs right after Epstein checks in his tier. While the prison cameras continued to provide live video feeds, recordings were made only for about half the cameras. That makes no sense. That makes no sense because they're all server based. It makes no sense. That's bullshit. They're making it sound like that these things are VHS cameras. It's just, it makes no sense. The timing, it just makes no sense. We'll go into the cameras, not at length, but we will because it's important. And it's all in that report, guys, so definitely check it out. All right, where are we now? And then, so the cameras were out was another lie. No, so just like I read, they reported in 2023, according to the OIG, who knows, that the cameras, 50% of the cameras went out, or the ones in that tier, 50% went out, but it seems like there's only one camera. There's a Wired article that shows that they actually edited that footage. So, yeah. And by the way, when you go to you can find the videos. You guys know where you find the videos, right? They're in the memo that came out. You'll notice there's two videos, like two video 1, video 2, but the same length of time. It's the same time frame. So I don't know why there's video 1 and video 2, but that's what they have. It's kind of weird. Don't look at Epstein's list. Lots of names. I have a t-shirt with it. You're going to have to give us a picture of that t-shirt. Revman Solution, send me a picture of that t-shirt, please. I want to put it up because I have a feeling there's something funny you're saying there. It's just not coming through the right way. Don't look at Epstein's list. Don't look at Epstein's list. Lots of names. I have a t-shirt with it. Got it. And I'm saying definitely look at the list. Joanna reposted the stream. Thanks, Joanna. Cops edited out exculpatory evidence in my 1A retaliation trials. Video doesn't disappear. Select. Yeah, absolutely. And I've worked enough criminal cases for defense lawyers as a private investigator where, like the murder cases I worked, you'd finally get the evidence and it's on, like, they'll still put it on like a CD. So then you got to find a DVD. Then you got to find a DVD player. And then the DVD doesn't work, or the footage is, you can't even see it. This has happened so many times. You're right. That's exactly, they mess with the evidence. So they turn it over, but it's unusable. It's a good point. Ernie says, have 7 blinks, 3 rings, and a light bulb camera. Only time they go out is when the internet goes out. Yeah, I have all the above, and I also have like standalone, like just battery cameras that don't transmit to anything as backup, trail cams, everything. I never have gaps. Never have gaps. All right. There is no list, just testimony with names, business associates, financial scams. There's also his contact book as well, his black book. Don't forget about that one, because that's a real thing. Let me see. I won't pull it up because it's getting late, but yeah, they also have his contact list book, which has like everyone in it under the sun, but still. By the way, we don't know if there's a list or not. It's a hell of a lot of hard drives that were taken out of all his houses, so they're telling us there's no list, but we don't know if there's not a list. The whole point of us investigating is, we're not even trusting but verifying. We're going to verify first and decide if we trust. Verify, then trust. No trust. Not if it's not earned. I agree. Bondi was bamboozled by the leftover Dems in AG offices. Let's say she was. Okay, let's say she was bamboozled. Then why not just come out and say, hey, I got bamboozled. They screwed me. They corrupted all the files. Why not just say that? Why make up these ridiculous statements about camera missing out minutes and, the footage, saying that there is a list, and then saying I didn't say that. I said there is a file. Joshi didn't say file. So was bamboozled? Maybe. But then don't lie. It's like it's like, honestly, when I see her, it's like, let's say she's totally innocent, just bad at communications, or just a kind of a natural liar. It just reminds me of like kids, when you like peek around and you see them eat the cookie, then you confront them. They're like 6 and they got the cookie crumbs. And you're like, do you eat the cookie? They're like, no. That's what she reminds me of. But see, I think she wants to take all the cookies, or is poisoning the cookies or something. I don't trust her based on past statements in other cases, based on who her clients have been. I just don't trust her. And I haven't been given a reason to trust her. So I'm just not going to go along with her just because she's a Trump appointee. Look at his first administration. I mean, for Christ's sake, he hired Scaramucci. I met Scaramucci. He's a funny guy. But some of the people he had on, Walls, at the beginning of this administration, it's our job as voters. It's kind of like, think of the president's kind of like the master carpenter. We hired him to rebuild our house. Well, if we don't like some of his subcontractors, we're going to tell him. And I appreciate that Laura Loomer's got that voice and got that megaphone, literally and figuratively, and does call these things out. I mean, I think it's the job of every American to do due diligence on all these people and the actions they take, because they will affect us, especially the Attorney General. So no, unless you have proof that she got bamboozled, I'm going to go with assuming she doesn't. And so far, the evidence I've collected tells me that she might not know what she's doing, but she is choosing to be deceptive, and she is choosing to not be transparent. She's made a choice multiple times to not be transparent. She knew damn well the Epstein files, the first batch, were stuff that the public had already seen, yet she put out this big binder bimbo party of people rushing out saying, oh, and it's the same shit we saw all the time. So she's choosing. I could say this. I'm not saying she wasn't bamboozled. I'm not saying she's lying about the Epstein files. I am saying that it seems clear to me she is choosing to be deceptive in how she communicates what is going on with our government and our system of law to the American people, and that's wrong. And we deserve better. You look like Biden at his red mat. Oh, with the stuff behind me. I can't get the lighting right, guys. I'm sorry. It's, it's this light over here. I can't find the remote control, so I'm stuck on red. But yeah, because I don't like all the red either. But hey, it is what it is. It's Republican red. How about that? That's funny, Don Johnson. Sleep well. Thanks for the show tonight. And then, of course, anytime Sino, it will be better next time I'm out of practice, but I am back. I've just been doing a lot of travel. Okay, all good. Some on Substack. Web book, One Nation Under Blackmail. I've read that one. That's a good book. What were his legs holding straight out? Kind of like, I think the way they diagrammed it, it's like, this is the floor. His legs are kind of feet on the ground, but a little above the ground, back going straight up, neck hanging. That's how they diagrammed it. So going straight out in front of him like that. I think. Nick Bryant released the book. Release what book? I'll look it up. I'll definitely look it up. So yeah. All right, guys, that's all I have for tonight. Sorry this was a little disjointed, but I really enjoyed seeing you all, and it is good to work through these things. Don't forget, definitely you want to grab yourself a copy of this. All right. So I'm going to remove that, add that. Yeah, make sure you get this and download it. I also recommend downloading the oldest copy on Wayback Machine. Go here, go to Wayback Machine, and then URL now. So yeah, that's because it's on my computer. But you just go there, go for the oldest one, just in case they change anything. But yeah, definitely read this. It is worth the read. A lot of information in here, and a lot that does contradict current statements that are being made by some of our, not our leaders, but by some of the people who think they know better. And by the way, one thing that's really interesting about this Epstein thing, it's, you can see on both sides of the media, right and left, you can see who wants it to go away. Me and JJ Carroll talked about it on his show, so I don't want to steal that thunder, but basically, like, you have Jake Tapper, of all people, on CNN today saying, yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with these people. I want to know what's in those files. And then his own fellow pundit is like, oh, they're crazy conspiracy theories, blah, blah, blah. Like, you've got infighting at the CNN desk, at the Fox desk, at the America First desk. And that's going to show you who the paid bad influences are. Any person that says, make this go away, there's nothing to see here. Anyone who starts towing that line, put them on your do not trust list. Because anyone that doesn't anyone that's okay with how this thing was closed, either you don't know what the case is and you've never heard of it, or you're getting paid to say that. So just keep an eye. This is a great and rare time to figure out who's actually getting paid or who's actually compromised on both sides of the aisle based on, their feelings about this list. Now, granted, a lot of Democrats, they want the list released because they seem to think it's got Trump on it. Personally, I don't think it does, because I think if the Biden administration, who tried to shoot the man twice and get him thrown in jail for 500 years, if they had him on the Epstein client list, they would have used it. That's just my feeling on it. So I don't think it's that. But it is interesting. Keep an eye on the pattern of messaging. The pattern of messaging is move on, move on, move on. And we're getting that messaging from people on the right, people in the center, and people on the left. We're also getting the hell no, we're not going to move on from people on the left, people on the right, and people in the center. So I've been keeping track of these people because I want to see where their messaging has aligned or where it's gone for other big cases such as Ukraine, COVID, everything else like that. So interesting time to keep an eye on the way voices are being handled. I couldn't believe Jake Tapper wanted to see more of the list. That blew my mind. And then the idiot next to him is like, oh, he committed suicide. That's a fact. And it's like, in a legal sense, it's technically a fact because that's how it was ruled. It doesn't make it a fact in the real world. So yeah, and I'll get that other report, mortician's report up as well. Catturd has shown who he is by trying to blow this off. Really? I am not surprised. I'm not surprised. Yeah. Trust me. When you come on, Autumn, we can do the whole show on the influencers, because keep an eye on this, everyone. I really miss I gotta say, I miss the Biden time, because at least in the Biden time, we were all fighting a common enemy. That being the Biden administration and everyone else. But now it's getting a little murky. It's like just trying to figure out which lobbying firms some of the previously kind of independent voices have now become decided to work for. And there's some pretty, there's it's like being in prison now. It's like everyone's chose their gang. There's the Qatar lobby. There's APAC, the American-Israeli PAC. There's the Chinese, there's defense industry, there's pharma, and then there's one other one. Turkey is actually a really big pack. So it's interesting to see based on the messaging. Oh, forgot Chevron, Kim Iverson. That's why she's always saying Maduro's not that bad. Listen to Kim Iverson sometime. Always he's not that bad. Oh, we misread China. It just sickens me. But yeah, she was actually saying on one of her shows something like, oh yeah, we vilified Maduro. Maduro vilified Maduro because he's an insane homicidal maniac dictator. But yeah, Kim Iverson, someone mentioned her earlier on the chat. Just watch her messaging. It's very interesting. Dems on the list too. Tons of Dems. Look, it's not. Don't look at this in terms of. And that's a good point, Reps. But I'm gonna say, don't get caught up in the bipartisanship or partisanship. That will muddy your waters investigative wise. At that level, there are no political parties. Okay, doesn't matter. It's about money. It's about money and power and leverage. Okay, there's lots of Republicans, there's lots of Democrats, there's lots of foreigners, there's lots of people that don't vote. It's not about political parties, this Epstein thing. Trust me, it is not. This is something above political parties. And Naomi said it well. She used to work at the White House, and I used to work, in the intel agency, so they didn't want me in the White House, but I didn't really understand politics because I didn't care. I was an operator. So she said politics are like, I said, describe politics in DC. She said, well, politics are like professional wrestling. They all throw each other around on the stage, but they all show up in the same tour bus. I thought that was really interesting. So we will, good point, Autumn. Doesn't matter. absolutely right. Absolutely right. Wow, look at me. I look haggard. I'm gonna go to bed. So guys, very good. I will get this up on Substack. You could go to brianoshea.substack.com, and that's where I am. I will put this up. It is a free subscription, like I said. If you can, yeah, brianoshea.substack.com. If you can, definitely do a paid subscription. Helps me out a lot, and but subscribe anyways, even if it's not in your budget. I think it's like $5 or something. But if it's not in your budget or you got too many subscriptions, totally get that. That's why I make it free. Just share it and share it out, and just like you guys are sharing the show, which I really appreciate. So I'm gonna get some bed and be back with you tomorrow night probably, and I'll announce it in the middle of the day. And then Ernie says power, money, and creepy predilections. Yeah, man, I don't get the pedophile thing. That's just so weird. Just so weird. It's disgusting. It's inhumane. I don't understand it. So, all right. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I will see you all tomorrow. So, I promise to leave you with I will hop off the camera, and I believe, yep, this is the last part of it. So have a great night, everyone.